A pleasant good morning to everyone, and welcome once again to another edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Today's guest menu looks like this. Dr. Jason Cable of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. He joins me at about 10:15-ish, and we'll be discussing some topics involving the Southwestern Athletic Conference, his insight on the SWAC basketball schedule, also Cricket Wireless, women's and men's basketball virtual media day. So I'll give his perspective on those topics and more. So Dr. Jason Cable joins me in hour number one. Following Dr. Cable will be Coach Van Pettaway, and then Brandon B.J. Jones of HBCU Game Day. Those are the guests on today's show. Here's what's trending on the Carlos Brown Show. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the JSU family. Former Jackson State University Hall of Fame coach W.C. Gordon passes away last night at the age of 90 years old. Outstanding. And with W.C. Gordon first getting into Southwestern Athletic Conference sports and just looking at some of the great teams that he had at Jackson State, boy, I was disappointed of many days, many years when Coach Gordon was at Jackson State. Just an iconic figure and a great person, great coach. Now he's in internal rest. W.C. Gordon passes away at the age of 90 years old. Also, the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference releases their 2021 spring football schedule, and it's an unusual schedule to say the least. Some teams like Bethune Cookman, they're playing an opponent twice. And to help me understand all of this will be Brandon B.J. Jones. He'll take a look at the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, releases their 2021 spring football schedule, and get his thoughts and perspective. Then last but not least, a big story. Jackson State placed on probation by the NCAA for recruiting violations. And look, I had to pull up the article, and it's long, but I'll put it this way. The violations in question occurred before Jackson State announced Coach Deion Sanders as his new head football coach. And that was back on September the 21st. So if you kind of look at, and you can Google it, you can go to the Clarion Ledger, you can go to hbcusports.com. You can, several places to kind of look at the article. But if you look at it, JSU and the NCAA Division I Committee on Infractions, they agreed that the 34 student athletes practiced and competed before receiving final certification from the NCAA Eligibility Center. Because the university did not prevent the violations from occurring, it ultimately agreed that it failed to monitor its certification process. Also, the violations included impermissible $300 payment to a football prospect's godmother by a former member of the internal operations staff. Additionally, staff member impermissibly arranged for tutoring to assist the prospect in completing courses needed to be eligible after transferring. And then you can see where considered to be level 2 violations by the NCAA. Jackson State punishments are as follows: 2 years of probation, a fine of $5,000, a 2% reduction in baseball scholarships from the annual limit of 11.7 scholarships during the 2021-2022 academic year, and a 2.5% reduction in football scholarships equivalency from the annual limit of 63 during the 2021-22 and 2022-23 academic years. The football program must serve a 1-week ban on unofficial visits in each of January, February, March, and April 2021. Also, a reduction of 4 football official paid visits during the 2021-2022 academic year. The program must serve a 1-week ban on all recruiting, communications, contacts, and off-campus recruiting by the entire football staff with any prospects, including transfers, in each of May and June 2021. And then last but not least, a vacation of records of contests in which student-athletes participated while ineligible. The university must provide a written report containing the contest impacted to the NCAA media coordination and statistics staff within 14 days of the public release of the decision. These violations in question occurred before Jackson State announced Deion Sanders as its new head football coach. So, several places you can look at the article, and then you can draw your own conclusions. So basically, Jackson State agreed to the violations, and they have accepted the punishment. Now, they have had several commentaries by you, the people, social media, and it's going to be interesting how all of this will work itself out. Now, there is a theory out there that Coach Sanders now getting potentially a lot of 4- or 5-star athletes, that those in the state of Mississippi, the big schools, they don't like it, and now they're going to be watching to snitch at every opportunity if they see something that's not correct. That is one theory. But in the grand scheme of things, going forward, keep yourself clean, keep your nose clean, dot your I's, cross your T's, and you should be okay. So that was the big story. Also, W.C. Gordon passes away, 90 years old. Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference releases their 2021 spring football schedule. Guest, Dr. Jason Cable, coming up in about 8 minutes. Then we'll visit with Brandon B.J. Jones, and then Coach Van Pettaway. Let me say good morning to Dr. Prince. Dr. Prince, good morning to you, sir. How are you doing?
Good morning, sir. How are you on this lovely, crisp fall morning?
Well, I'm doing okay. Looking forward to November the 3rd. Go out and exercise your right to vote. A lot of people died and shed blood for that right.
Yes, sir.
You understand that. Hopefully, the results go the way that you want them to go.
Yes, they're going to go one way, either your way or not your way. But the most important thing is that you vote. Because if you don't vote, you can't complain one way or the other. And if you do vote, you do have a little skin in the game. So get out there and vote.
And vote early. I did this week. And just listening to the conversation, standing in line, it wasn't too bad. There's several locations in Baton Rouge where you can vote early. People are ready.
Oh, yeah.
They were ready. They were prepared. They had water on them. They had everything they needed if they needed to stay in line a long time. But it moved pretty quickly. Not bad at all.
Well, one thing about living in the country, you don't have too long of waits. So my wife and I were actually going to do our voting on this coming Tuesday.
Very good. Very good. Got to vote.
Got to vote.
Got to vote. So, with that being said, Coach Casson passed away this year. W.C. Gordon, both in 2020. Of course, Eddie Robinson passed away years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And you could kind of see some of the pictures circulating social media. Boy, powerful pictures. Those three now, I guess, as one person said, the discussions they probably having now.
But, yes, sir.
You know, W.C. Gordon, and I got a chance to meet him in person, probably back in the late 1990s.
Okay.
You know, amazing guy. You know, just talking with him, and I told him I'm here for, of course, the game, Southern and Jackson State, and he had a little twinkle in his eye as we talked briefly about the success of that, that game, that rivalry, and he had some success. But he told me Southern always had talent, and he was fortunate to be able to have some success against Southern. And another thing about him, he knew he was a outstanding coach, but he just didn't overwhelm you with it. He was humble to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, this is the famous W.C. Gordon. I'm glad I got a chance to meet him.
One thing that can never take away from you is your experience and the memories. So cherish that opportunity and those moments, my friend, as he rests on in glory. Oh,
yeah. Well said. Well said. And, boy, they had some success. As people are kind of weighing in, 28 game SWAC win streak in the 80s. Yeah. They were dominant, and pretty much it was sometimes you went to Veterans Memorial, or if they came to A.W. Mumford, you were going to be in for a long day,
right?
Especially in Jackson. And those two institutions have always, went after each other, even though it was one-sided at a certain time. And in the 90s, Coach Pete Richardson comes to Baton Rouge and has pretty much great success. But it's always a rivalry that you respect. And, I often say the fan bases are alike, cocky, arrogant, confident. And it's true, they are. But that was a long streak, and you've had several of them. Southern's had winning streaks, Grambling State. You're talking about conference games, and to dominate in a conference where everyone knows you, it's not like you're playing somebody out of conference.
Mm-hmm.
Where hey, they look at the film and preparations a week, and then put together a game plan and show up and play. But when you play in a conference, remember you know each other,
right?
You know each other, and to be able to still have success. And despite people knowing who you are and what you like to do, it's a matter of stopping it.
Mm-hmm.
But streaks are made to be broken.
This is true. But 28 is a tall order, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's a tall order. And when you really analyze that in today's standard, not that yesterday's standard is antiquated, because success is success no matter what platform you're on, because you play who's in front of you. But you think about 28 consecutive conference games. That's getting it done. That's getting it done. That
is, because you're looking at 10 conference games, well, 9. Right. In that case, sometimes 7, but
that's 3 solid years of dominance.
And I know, like you said, Grambling had a nice win streak, and I remember Southern. 97, 98, 99 didn't lose a game. So I'm sure the statistical people will weigh in before this show's over with on those streaks. I mean, they're all good, outstanding. And then even in basketball, we're talking about streaks. I did see what Prairie View A&M, second in the country?
Yes, sir. 27
and home. We'll go down this year, but
you just had to slide that in, didn't you? You had to slide that in, didn't you?
I had to. But
well, when you start talking about the streak, it was in the back of my mind. But I said we're talking football, we're talking JSU. But since you brought it up, 27. Consecutive home wins is pretty impressive, man.
Yeah, and look, that when I saw that information, hey, kudos to Prairie View A&M because it's tough going in there, and now Coach Woods is his personality is he would love to be the one to.
Oh, I know he would
to break that streak, but I looked at. As now I'm talking a little basketball, when I look back to last year, and I had some people really kind of upset. Southern, and the game was on television, if you remember. Southern lost by 10 points, and it was just a game where both teams are so tough defensively. It wasn't really a rhythm to the game.
Mm-hmm.
But believe it or not, and I know some people are going to say, oh, wait a minute, here you go. But a 10-point loss against a defensive juggernaut like Prairie View A&M and Southern lost, but they only lost by 10. I felt good. Believe it or not. Now, I didn't know if they were going to go on one of those wild win streak, but it showed me that this Southern team is physically tough, and I felt they had a chance to be much better than the previous year, and that panned out.
Okay. And still, though, you're going to stay in that fantasy land talking about what would have happened if the tournament had started. But we'll continue on in 2021. We got that.
Well, I mean, we could throw out an unscientific poll.
You can throw out all the polls you want, man,
and see what people's opinions are. And that,
you can do that. You
don't want me to go to the facts and opinion segment again. Huh?
Well, you can do all you want. The opinion is you believe one thing, but the facts are Prairie View back-to-back champs. But we got to get ready for Mr. Cable. We can't continue to run this segment, man, because we'll never end. We'll miss a segment.
Well, hopefully, with the new basketball schedule, with the conference, it will be settled somewhat.
It's going to be settled somewhat and real soon. Real soon.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that's right, because based on that schedule, they come to the F.G. Clark Activity Center first.
Mm-hmm.
But in the grand scheme of things, I would love if they would mix it up a little bit, but...
You know what? We're going to really have to dig into that because I think you need to play that rival game, the last regular season game of the season, instead of playing it when there's hardly no one back from the regular Christmas break. But we'll talk. We'll kick that can down the road a little later.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I'll take a timeout. When I come back, we'll visit with Dr. Jason Cable of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. By the way, I saw a picture of him last week in his playing days at Alcorn State with the headband. I forgot that brother was a big guy, big guard. Well, maybe 6'5", 6'4", 6'5", but I believe he could play the 2 and the 3 spot. Well, maybe we'll ask him about that. Maybe. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
Hello, this is Alonzo Hardy Jr., the president of the SWAC Alumni Association. The SWAC Alumni Association is an organization founded on December 10, 1999, at the Sheraton Hotel in Birmingham, Alabama. Its mission is to serve as a rallying ground for individuals who have made the Southwestern Athletic Conference the illustrious conference that it is today. Its membership is open to former student athletes who played in the conference in any sport, as well as to coaches, athletic administrators, staff members, game officials, and fans. Annually, the association holds a Legends Awards and roast banquet or luncheon where it honors individuals with Lifetime Achievement Awards, a Chuck Prophet Wackenmaster Award, and occasionally a Distinguished Service Award. Proceeds from that event help to finance degree completion scholarships for student athletes who have exhausted their playing eligibility at SWAC universities, but who may still need an extra semester or two to complete their college studies. For more information on the SWAC Alumni Association, or to get information on becoming a member, you can send correspondence to SWAC Alumni Association, 875 Miller Creek Lane, Newport News, Virginia, 23602. The email address is SWACalumniassociation@yahoo.com.
Your education, your health care, your community, your future. Your vote counts for many things. Take control. Get registered. Get educated. Get out and vote. Learn more at www.vote411.org. This is a public service announcement from Open Mic Broadcast Network.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Today's first guest, Dr. Jason Cable of the Southwestern Athletic Conference, Associate Commissioner. Dr. Cable, it's a pleasure, as always, to speak with you again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on again.
Well, we appreciate the time. Dr. Cable, doing all right, being safe, and still working your way through this pandemic, global pandemic. But you've been okay, though, right?
Yes, everything's good. The family's well, so I can't complain.
Can't complain. Just leave that up to the complainers or the people that dislike to answer or ask the questions that maybe everyone wants to know. And speaking of that, some interesting news in the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and kind of get your perspective and thoughts on one being the extension of the cricket wireless sponsorship for the SWAC championship game. Just great news by the conference.
Yeah, great news. We was able to increase that sponsorship in length. I think cricket felt as if the SWAC was a great fit, and we felt that cricket was a great fit, so came back to the table to make sure that both the SWAC and cricket were locked in. And so we feel as if it's a benefit to our fans and our institutions to extend that contract. And so I think we spoke about it on my first time on the show. You know, get in early. You know, this is the time to get in with the conference office, because we're taking flight, and I think cricket was one of the first to do so.
A 3-year extension through 2023, and then after that time or before that time ends up, kind of walk us through it. If there's if you want to do another extension or agreement, how do you go through that process?
Well, you just come back to the table, make sure that the deliverables were met on both ends. Most of the time it's commonplace. We look a year out. So we get in year 2, we'll have the discussions about extending the contract or modifying the contract. And so we feel as if we're in a good place right now. I think the SWAC over-delivered on the previous deal, and that's why cricket was anxious to come back to the table. And, you know, we hope to do the same in this contract. And so as we get to year 2, we can start looking at, you know, where we go from there.
And more good news. Update us on a multi-year partnership with Academy Sports and Outdoors, Dr. Cable.
Yeah, so Academy Sports and Outdoors, their footprint kind of mirrors the footprint of our institution. And so just like cricket, they saw opportunity with the SWAC, and the SWAC saw the opportunity with Academy for both brand recognition, and also a way to extend our brand by way of apparel, and there's other things in the contract. But one of the things I think that will resonate with our fan base is having the ability to go to Academy Sports and to purchase apparel, right? Another thing is our student athletes and what they do in the community, outside of the field of play, highlight those moments and connect those moments to sports through academy. So those are the two major items within the contract that both the SWAC and academy feel that are most beneficial moving forward.
And Dr. Cable, we know, of course, a global pandemic is going on, but with the expansion with the Southwestern Athletic Conference bringing in two other institutions, have you seen a response by other businesses that now are kind of contacting you guys about maybe coming on as sponsors?
Yes, absolutely. We've seen an increase in interest since the inclusion of Bethune, Cookman, and FAMU, and our brand continues to increase and develop. We took on a new state, and so that's another media market. So quite naturally, companies within that media, or corporations within that media market are interested in what the SWAC has to offer.
Visiting with Dr. Jason Cable, Associate Commissioner of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. So big news, Cricket Wireless sponsorship, and championship game and extension, a partnership. Also with Academy Sports Outdoors, a multi-year partnership. And now all of that is great news. Now we'll transition into basketball, Southwestern Athletic Conference. Release the conference schedule. Give us some insight into the format for men's and women's basketball.
Yeah, the format and number of games remain the same. Each team has 9 home and 9 away. And so we kept the format intact. One thing that we wanted to make sure that we allowed our institutions to do is play the NCAA requirement of 13 Division I contests. Due to the pandemic, the NCAA reduced the number of required Division I contests to be selected for the NCAA tournament, receive that qualifying bid. And so we wanted to make sure that we gave our institutions enough Division I contests where if there was a stoppage in play, that our institutions could still meet that 13-game requirement. And so with out-of-conference and conference game, each institution has around 23 Division I contests. And so out of that 23, we feel as if each of our member institutions will achieve at least 13, making them eligible for postseason play.
Yeah, reduction of total number of games, 13 NCAA Division I. I know we've had some questions, conversation on the show. And maybe you can help us with this. The non-conference games. Will you be giving some presentations or advice if asked by member institutions about what they will do as far as the non-conference games?
Well, no, not at this point. I think each institution has set parameters of how they want to move forward with non-conference games this season. And so travel has been at the forefront, limiting travel, kind of drawing a circle around the institution, a radius around the institution in which they want to stay within. The number of non-conference games in some instances has decreased, and the guarantees have fluctuated due to the pandemic. So from a conference perspective, we allowed the institutions to set their own parameters as related to non-conference contests.
Dr. Cable, a question from a listener. Wanted to know that on Thursday, the NCAA Division II granted all of their athletes, specifically basketball, another year of eligibility regardless of class. Even if they play this year, has this been done for NCAA Division I, or is it still for seniors opting out?
Yeah, so the Division I has adopted that same model. So as it relates to winter sports, similar to fall sports, student athletes are able to receive another year of eligibility, even if they play.
Interesting. So, but it still will be left up to the institution as far as financially being able to get it done for those student athletes, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. Visiting with Dr. Jason Cable of the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Also, announced by the conference this week, a virtual media day. Cricket Wireless Women and Men's Basketball Virtual Media Day. A little bit different because, of course, again, the pandemic, and you have to, for it being virtual, but nevertheless, the Southwestern Athletic Conference is gonna put that on. Could you give us some perspective on that?
Yeah, so the virtual media day came about really before the pandemic in terms of the presentation. Virtual media day allows you to interview each coach for men's and women's basketball, and then have a production thereafter. And so our media team, led by Andrew Roberts, felt as if social media days is what we initially tagged it, would give men's and women's basketball more visibility in that social media space. So the pandemic came about, and we just kept the same format intact. But honestly, prior to COVID-19, the conference was contemplating moving men's and women's basketball media day to more of a virtual space.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting, but and it offers you the ability, of course, to dial in and get a chance to hear the coaches, both women and men. And I happen to know one of the guys that's going to be there, James Barrett.
Right.
do you know him well?
Yes. So, I saw him. He was at the office this week preparing. So, yeah, James has done a great job, and we keep him in the fold, so to speak. So, yeah, love working with James.
Yeah, he doesn't brag about him being a Southern University alum, huh?
Yeah, it's subtle. It's subtle, you know.
Yeah.
It comes out through conversation.
Yeah, great background in communications. Had a chance to interview him over the years. I think it's time to maybe interview him again. Have a conversation with James Barrett, but he will be conducting the one-on-one interviews with the virtual broadcast. And of course, Dr. Cable will be the same. I guess at that time they'll release the predictions for the
yes.
champions and the all conference teams. That in itself is going to be interesting. I know, Dr. Cable, you can't comment on your thoughts on that. Who will, be predicted to do well, but that'll be an opportunity when all of this will be released on the virtual media day, correct?
Correct.
I'll tell you what, there's going to be some excitement, though. If you look at it.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. You know, the way the season ended last year, obviously we didn't have a tournament. So, both coaches and players are excited about getting back on the court. And I think as you look at our conference 1 through 10, I think, honestly, anyone could win it this year. And so we look forward to the season, and we have some ultimate competitors, to say the least, is related to our coaches. And so, on those conference calls, you can kind of hear, as we get closer to the season, we meet with our coaches, and so you can kind of hear the competitive side of each coach coming out as we get closer to the season. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, that's going to be very interesting. I could think of two that are very competitive. And I also could think of, even on the women's side, I mean, there's some outstanding coaches. And you know what? That even the predicted order finish, that's going to be very interesting in itself. I mean, hey, Prairie View on the men's side, Jackson State on the women's side, but now everybody's going to be gunning for them. The bullseye is on the back.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you this: we feel that we have some of the best coaches in the nation when you look at both groups, and so we really think men's, women's basketball over the next 4 to 5 years to really take off for the conference, and we look to enhance our standing each year. As the women's basketball and men's basketball now both picked up net rankings, right? The formula for ranking Division I teams. And so we're looking to increase our ranking each year. And ultimately, our goal is to get more than one team in the NCAA tournament. And so we have that as a 5-year goal right now for both men's and women's basketball.
Yeah, that would be outstanding because, over the years we've had conversations about what, in our opinion, what it will take to, get an at-large bid, of course, tournament champions, or automatic bid to the NCAA tournament. And Dr. Cable, when you hear the term, the word parity, is that a word that you look at when you kind of looking at the conference basketball scene?
Oh, absolutely. So there will be parity, I think, on both sides this year and even moving forward.
Yeah. Now, and boy, and again, you looking at, past a certain situation when when they're in the league, Bethune Cookman University and FAMU, when I look at on the women's side, tremendous. I was looking at the basketball program again this week. Bethune Cookman women's basketball team, they're bringing a great pedigree into the conference, Dr. Cable.
Yeah, so Bethune Cookman, as you just mentioned, was picked to win their division in the MEAC, and traditionally they've been really good. And FAMU, I think they're up and coming. Both programs have a new coach on the women's side, and then they picked up a big Division I win on the men's side last year. So if those teams enter the conference, we feel that our overall ranking as a conference will increase. And so when you add 2 teams to your conference, both on the men's and women's side, you're adding 4 additional Division I contests, which helps you in scheduling, right? The way we would have only 10 teams playing, 9. Now you possibly have, 11 games you could play.
Yeah, you can't wait. You can't wait. Really, the excitement is there. Any other sports updates you would like to talk about? And then I kind of want to get your reflection on. We lost Coach W.C. Gordon yesterday. Get your thoughts on that as well in the conference.
Yeah. So first, the upcoming seasons for our fall sports moving to the spring, like football, volleyball, and soccer will all kick off around that, in that February period with championships in April and then football in May. So everything is remaining status quo with those programs. We released the schedules, obviously, for football, volleyball, and soccer. And so now we're working towards softball, baseball, tennis, and our other spring sports, which we think will kick off on time. And so those sports, we've met with the coaches, athletic directors, and the consensus from those groups in the conference is to keep the schedules the same, and we'll work as we get closer if any modifications or changes must be made.
And W.C. Gordon, your thoughts, memories of him and what he meant to not only the Southwestern Athletic Conference, but to college athletics as a whole.
I think he was a giant. When you look at his body of work and what he's done at one institution, I think you can compare it to anyone, in HBCU athletics and FCS or FBS. And I remember my time at Jackson State. W.C. Gordon was closely connected to the program. And really, it's like bi-weekly, he would just stop by my office. I was in compliance at Jackson State at the time, and we would just talk. And the conversation would most of the time just be about life. And so he was always a coach, whether he was on the field or not. And you could gather that from him from just being around him. And so a loss like that, conference took a big hit. I know Jackson State took a big hit as well. And we want to make sure that we keep his family in our prayers. But in terms of a coach, I don't think you could name anyone that has done more for their institution in even football, or when you look at HBCU football, there's very few that sit close to it.
And Dr. Cable, how ironic it is that two competitors, and you Alcorn State and Jackson State, and the games that they had, and Coach Casson and Coach Gordon. How ironic that they passed in the same year. Two giants of men and two outstanding coaches. 2020 has been rough. It really has, but their contribution to the Southwestern Athletic Conference, LCS college athletics as a whole, they will long be remembered for being great coaches and outstanding men.
Yes, absolutely. If we could rewind 2020 and just skip it, I don't think anybody would be upset.
But we shall get past this. We shall move on. And at this point, always at the interview, when I'm always setting up conversation, you remember what I text you about who is your NBA team, and I always find that interesting because I know you're a basketball guy, among other things. And Boston Celtics, wow.
Yeah, I'm a Boston Celtics fan, and I really don't know where that came from. I just, I think growing up, the stations we had access to as a kid, you had very limited teams that you were able to see, and the Celtics will come on a lot, and so, yep. So, I just kind of developed a like for the Celtics, and then the Paul Pierce era, Ray Allen era definitely kept me connected, and then Doc Rivers. So, I'm a Celtics fan.
Well, and that's interesting because now we'll always have something to talk about. Thanks for the kind words of, what did you text me? I'm sorry about the Heat losing in the finals. But if it came from anybody else, I would have thought that somebody was just trying to poke the old bear there. But I don't think you were trying to do it. But I think Boston and the Heat will see each other again. It's going to be an interesting rivalry and an outstanding history between the two programs. And last but not least, LeBron James, and not only what he has done on the court, but what is also most impressive is what he has done and is doing off the court, Dr. Cable, as far as being a complete player/person.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm a LeBron fan as well. I think I text you that. I won't get into the conversation of who's better, but we look at Michael Jordan and LeBron. But off the court, I think that he has shown, his commitment, in terms of the promise school and the things that he's doing in the community, are fantastic. And so he does appear to be that complete athlete, both on the court and in the community. And so I think he's one that is one of the greats, and I'll just leave it there. But I definitely think he is a model for our young people.
And that's what you would like to see. And you look at some of the great coaches on the basketball side that have come through this conference, Ben Jobe, Coach Whitney, and and I'll stop there because there's several other, Coach Pettaway. And then giving back and to the student athletes even after their coaching days are over with. So they're to be applauded. Dr. Cable, it's been a pleasure as always for an update, and we will talk again real soon. Continue, you and your family, to be safe and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
All right, you too. Enjoy it.
Right.
Have a great one.
You too. Thank you.
All right.
And was Dr. Jason Cable of the Southwestern Athletic Conference, Associate Commissioner, joining me on today's show. Well, great news, of course, in the conference. The extension on the Cricket Wire sponsorship, SWAC championship game. Also, the basketball schedule, conference schedule has been released. Cricket Wireless Women's and Men's Basketball Virtual Media Day taking place very shortly, November 2nd and 3rd at 10 a.m. both days via the SWAC Digital Network with analyst James Barrett. I'm tempted to get him on the show. And you might wonder why I say tempted, because me and Mr. Barrett we've kind of been like oil and water over the years. We'll get into a conversation and it'll be back and forth. And we don't want to do that for this time. We just want to kind of get his thoughts on going into this virtual media day. But now he's a Southern University alum, but we have over the years have not seen eye to eye on certain things. That's all. Okay. He's who he is and I'm who I am. How you like that? But coming up, as far as guests, Brandon B.J. Jones will join me, and then also Coach Van Pettaway. And just maybe, I'll see who does he think will be the top teams on both the women's and the men's side. Now, we kind of know when they come out with the predicted order finish. You kind of know what's going to happen with that. But there are going to be some great battles that will be going on within the conference. And if you look on the women's side, hey, Jackson State women, they did an outstanding job last year. How dominant were they? Do you think they were dominant? Texas Southern University women. Also, Alabama A&M. Can they make a move? Prairie View A&M women's basketball team. Coach Pugh got some height in. Are they a year or two away, or do you expect big improvement from Prairie View women? On the men's side, if we listen to Dr. Prince, hey, mail it in now. The men are going to run away with it on the men's side.
I don't know how you keep dragging
me. You said it.
Oh wow!
You're very confident.
I am confident in my
basketball
Panthers.
team,
yes,
and you should be.
Yes, sir. You know what? I'm really excited. You was talking about Coach Pugh. I'm really excited with the addition of Courtney Pruitt, the height that you mentioned, and the defensive expertise that Miss Pruitt brings to the table. I can't wait to see how they flash that defense on the women's side of things. But I'm not going.
It's going to be interesting. Of course, Coach Pruitt was the former women's basketball coach at Alcorn State.
Mm-hmm.
Now being and my question would be, and you may have asked her that this past week, teachers are still teachers, correct?
Right.
Coaches. But what is the mindset going from running the program to now being an assistant? And I'm sure she's been an assistant before in this position. Mm-hmm. But then what is the mindset someone could be a smarty pants and say, well, having a job is one thing, to move on after the situation at Alcorn State. But I think that would be interesting, that mindset.
Well, I think it's going to be okay, because if you notice, her title was not an assistant. She is actually named as the associate head coach. So that gives her a little bit more wiggle room, I'm looking at. And we talked to her about it. She acknowledges that it's still Coach Pugh's program, and how she wants it run is going to be ran that way. But being named an associate, I asked her, I said, was that part of the deal breaker, whether or not you came to Prairie View? It's like, no, that was how it was presented, which means that Coach Pugh recognized what having someone like a Pruitt on your staff and giving her that wiggle room where she could have some creative influence, if you would. And so it's going to be very exciting. That kind of amped it up for me.
Yeah. Well, of course, I try to be objective with Coach Pugh now at Prairie View, because I know what she did at Southern University and the success she had. And I just know she's, last year was last year, but knowing Coach Pugh, the effort's going to be there to move that program.
Yes, sir. This is year number 3.
Direction quickly.
This is year number 3, and now she's got more of her signature on this squad with a couple of recruiting seasons under her belt. So this team is starting to take on the traditional Sandy Pugh look and form of things. So they're really excited about getting this 21 campaign off the ground, just as they are on the men's side of things. And the spirits are extremely high at Panther Nation when it comes to the hardwood.
Yeah, basketball.
They playing basketball, baby.
Is the sport. Is the sport at Prairie View. Right now, you look at it, the most success is. Yes, sir. You can debate.
Well, that's been my echo, if you would, for the past few seasons. We know, because Prairie View's in the state of Texas, that the label is going to be football. But when the rubber meets the road, the greatest amount of success has been on the hardwood, on the men and women's side of things, and probably the most consistent sport in the last 10, 20 years at Prairie View. So sometimes you just have to look at the man in the mirror and call it for what it is. And although it's in the state of Texas, most of his current success has been at basketball.
And, I have a smarty pants. Just text me. I know it just means well, but he just texted me about Southern and Alcorn and football. Would that be the day that they playing today? Before the pandemic hit? Oh, boy.
Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
Well, look.
And it basically said it saves Southern from an annual beating. Wow.
Smoke.
That puts things in perspective, huh? And then you still get on me about being unsatisfied for second place. Okay.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, who
I'm
wants some of that smoke?
That person is trying to get me in a space that I don't need to be in.
Well, it sounds like they didn't got you there, brother. So you better take a break before you go any further.
I just mentioned whether you agree or disagree. I try to, talk about it all.
No, come off the ledge, brother. Come off the ledge. Come on off the ledge.
Oh no, we're not on the ledge. I'm sure Coach Odoms is plotting now how he can get that second victory against Alcorn State.
Oh my God! You know what? Everybody has their drum to beat and their cross to bear, because I've been hearing all, this and deservedly so from my end. But, since the announcement of Bethune Cookman and FAMU coming to the SWAC, all we've been hearing was the rivals between JSU, FAMU, Southern, FAMU, Bethune Cookman, FAMU. And like, man, they didn't forget about 6 other institutions in this conference: Prairie View, Pine Bluff, Valley, Texas Southern, and who else am I forgetting? I can't call it out right now, but you got the gist of what I'm saying. Well, no, they talked about ASU too. And I'm like, man, where do we fit in all this? So I'm kind of looking at this, that we're under the radar for the moment. And it's going to be up to us to come on top of the surface by taking care of business.
Well, a listener says, and I'll just say RH says, sorry, PV fans, Pew will finish below 4th place.
I'm willing to take some spring water wagers on that.
RH, Dr. Prince is willing to bet you on that one.
Spring, and let them know I do deliver if I do come up short.
But you know what? Look at it objectively. They could be. There's a possibility they could be better, but they may not win it. They may not get third
I'm going
place.
to go out on a limb. I'm not going to say that they'll win it, but they will definitely be better than what they were last season. And I am comfortable at this point, being October 24th, 2020, that they will finish in the top 4.
So if someone said they could be a better team, but the record may not reflect it, and they may say get a 5th place finish.
5th place.
Do you see that? Could you see that possibility?
I could see that possibility, but that would be, to me, unacceptable.
It still would be an improvement, though.
It would be an improvement, but from what I gather, what I know, this team is going to be greatly improved, barring any major injuries.
Well, they have motivation to be better, get better. The Bulls, to me, it's Jackson State, of course, 1, Texas Southern 2, and I had some of members of my group text message. Here's on the women's side, then we'll get to a commercial break. I had, of course, Jackson State 1, Texas Southern 2, Southern 3, and 4th I had Alabama A&M, and then I think I had Prairie View 5th, and I had people disagree with me with the 2 and the 3.
Okay,
and Southern 2 and Texas Southern 3. I had it the opposite. I had Southern 3. And of course, it's, you're making a prediction, but everybody comes back and everybody has losses, additions to their program. But Jackson State women and Texas Southern women, they're 1-2, but the bullseye will be, of course, on Jackson State women and on the men's side, Prairie View. And I think that's just an easy, fair assessment.
Yeah, that's a safe assessment. That is a safe assessment. And that's why I feel so comfortable at and I think you know me well enough, and the listeners know me well enough, that I call it the way I see it. I don't just lay out the carpet and have my purple and gold shades on just because. I try to be fair with my analysis and fair with my assessments, and I feel extremely comfortable that saying Prairie View's women's basketball program will finish in the top 4.
And Texas Southern women and Southern men are 2 of the strongest, potentially second place teams that will be predicted to be second, that can challenge the number ones.
No doubt.
Am I way off base on that, folks? You can the Carlos Brown Show at gmail.com. I have the Carlos Brown Show Facebook Messenger page open. You can text me and tell me right now you're crazy as hell saying that Southern on the men's side and Texas Southern women on the women's side are 2 of the strongest number 2 contenders in quite a few years.
You won't have no argument with me with that. You won't have no argument with me from me at all on that.
But guess what? prognosticators on paper, the games will not be won on paper.
Absolutely.
On the court, and you just have to be very excited.
That's why we play the game.
Of the basketball season. Now, we're saying all of that, and we're hoping that, the COVID-19 cases that are spiking once again, we're hoping that you'll have some kind of activity. But if you look at it, even the collegiate football games, you're getting games that are getting canceled, rescheduled. That's going to be part of it.
Oh, yeah.
And if you think about it, in the basketball arena, if you look on the scale of hazardous risk, basketball arena is, and bars, which I don't go to, those are two of the most deadly places where the virus can live in a very subtle way. So we shall see. What is the status of JSU Center? Will she still be there, or will she graduate before the season?
She's a December grad, I know, but with the way
That's a 6'5" young lady, right?
But with the way everything has been flip-flop, I think she'll enroll into grad school, and extend her playing time, because it's kind of quirky. I think she has a year of eligibility left. So, then with the way they
added another
they just added a year.
Player.
Yeah,
and then those who decide to come back and play, because I had a question this week about student athletes and their eligibility, and basically NCAA gave this whole year, kind of where they could come back and it really won't cost them. So you play in the spring,
right?
Then you come back in the fall of 2021.
You can read into that a couple of ways.
Now, the institution is going to be responsible for financing that scholarship.
Right. But the point I was about to make, if you get, as they say, analytical and real deep thought on this particular subject, why would the NCAA grant you almost like a 2-for-1 deal if in the back of their mind they were hesitant that they would have a spring to even begin with?
NCAA. That's them.
Of course. So they say, because if you get 1 or 2 games in, that's not equivalent to playing a full season. And they say, you know what, let's just go ahead and grant them. If the guys can play in the spring, and if they happen to get through it, fine. If not, you chalk it up and just rewrite the script for everybody in the fall. So I'm thinking that they are doing that because they have some reservation on whether or not they'll be able to get a complete spring season off, which I'm on record for saying what they really need to do for spring football is go ahead and play your annual spring game, and then play a game with your rival, your immediate number one rival. And if you have to, play that one game. And if you really got creative, play a home and home game, and then shut it down and get ready for the fall. But that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah. I'm almost speechless at that last point.
Oh, I know.
And
that's hard to do, ain't it?
Yeah, well, I'm taking it in, and then I'm going to process it, and then I'll put it in the short-term memory.
Right, and when you think about it, just for logistics, economics, and safety precaution, okay, you play your rival. I call them touchdown trips. You can travel that same day, play that game, go back home. You don't have to worry about getting cross-contaminated, this, that, and the other. You still got the spirit of competition going. The people are going to come out because they hadn't had football. You're going to have your spring training, or your preseason would be your annual, in our case, purple and gold, your case, blue and gold game. You play that, get a feel for your squads. A week later, you play your rival. You play them jokers, go here, and a week after that, you play your rival at whoever was the road team home, and shut it down.
You sure you're not a consultant for the MEAC?
No, but I've been saying that before. I like the way the MEAC got that structure. You play everybody twice. I like that. That really, the only thing that's missing, they need to have the Southern champion play the Northern champion, then they can have a MEAC champ for the year. But I love that concept.
Well, I've had people to tell me, express their opinion. If it's going to be a situation where you can't get through it, why not just come back in the fall 2021 and just bypass the spring?
Well, that's the ultimate results. And you have to create the conversation piece. You have to create that glimmer of hope for the SWAC football fan. And if you say we're not having anything in the spring, you lose that fan. You lose this segment of conversation because it is no longer an option. But when you present it as a possibility, you can talk about it. You can be hopeful about it. But in the back of your mind, if this does not work, I got the fall to look forward to. It goes back to my original conversation that why would they give them a 2-for-1 if they didn't think there was a great chance that you won't get the spring off?
Well, they're able to accomplish a spring season relative with no hiccups, and that's a big if.
Mm-hmm.
Then they'll come out looking outstanding. But I'm glad they did have the flexibility,
right,
of saying that if this doesn't work,
right,
then we will just.
And guess what? They still come out all right, looking like champions, looking like forward thinkers, looking like progressive leaders, and leading the way of excellence. And that's what you commend. That's what you acknowledge, and that's what you hold forward to. That's why you support this conference.
And they've done an outstanding job in such.
Yes, sir.
They really have. Boy, I'm getting a lot of basketball conversation. Colleague says the young lady we're talking about, she is back. And plus, got 6 dandy diapers. Outstanding 6 other women on the basketball program at Jack State are very good.
Oh, no doubt. They're going to be loaded. They're going to be loaded.
State women are loaded.
Yeah.
But let me take a break. Let me get to Brandon B.J. Jones at HBCU Game Day. We'll be talking the MEAC's spring football schedule is out. And, boy, they've got an interesting spring schedule. I'll get his thoughts on that. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
Be the one with courage to fight child abuse.
All Texans must find the courage to fight child abuse.
Learn the signs and symptoms and report suspected abuse to appropriate authorities.
Learn and know these warning signs.
A child who undergoes changes in behavior, appetite, or routine.
Watch for unexplained injuries, a change in academic performance, or loss of interest by a child in regular activities.
Trust your instincts. If you suspect something, do something.
If you believe a child is in an abusive situation, please call the Texas Abuse Hotline at 1-800-252-5400.
Be the one with courage. To find your local Children's Advocacy Center, visit onewithcourage.org.
On behalf of children, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One voice. It can get the point across, but it only carries so far. Add a voice. It's richer, louder, but that has limits too. Add a third voice. It's even more powerful. Add another, and another, and many, many more. And we are stronger than ever. That's the power of a community coalition. They help community groups, faith groups, civic organizations, PTAs, employers, and many others in your community organize their resources and focus them where they're needed most, like fighting to keep kids away from drugs. Ask a group that you belong to if they should belong to a community coalition. It's easy to get involved. Visit helpyourcommunity.org and they'll tell you exactly how your group can help. That's helpyourcommunity.org, because you get more when we get together. Brought to you by the Office of National Drug Control Policy and the Ad Council.
You know what? That reggae music in the background is so soothing to me. I could be on the beach looking at some crystal clear blue-greenish water anywhere off the coast of Jamaica. Excuse me, I'm back. Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. I'll visit now with Brandon B.J. Jones of HBCU Game Day. B.J., boy, on the beach in Jamaica, man, I'm telling you, you would enjoy it.
Oh, man, this sounds like a plan right now. That sounds like the perfect scene. And usually I'm against trips like that during the football season. Because we're not having the SWAC football season. Sure, why not?
I'll tell you. And you know what? There's some history between Jamaica and HBCUs, particularly in the track and field competition. Many, at the time, many natives of Jamaica had outstanding careers in the Southwestern Athletic Conference in track and field. Put me on that recruiting trip. And they, and I'll tell you what, they'll be talented and academically strong and athletically strong. With that being said, let me get away from Jamaica. BJ, the MEAC announced their 2021 spring football schedule. And, of course, they're going to have a championship game for the first time. They hope to be participating in the FCS playoffs. Get your initial thoughts on the schedule, because at first I'm like, wait a minute, let me put my glasses on maybe. I think it's a misprint. No, it's not a misprint. Some teams are going to play other teams twice. But get your overall thought on what the MEAC released this past week.
Yeah, when I first saw it, I thought it was a mistake. I looked at it and then looked some more. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. And I sat up to look at it. I'm like, wow. So you basically have FAMU opening the season with Bethune-Cookman and then closing the regular season with Bethune-Cookman, which is odd. It almost feels like, if you have any video game players out there, like someone crunk up the old PlayStation 2 playing NCAA football and customize their own schedule. It's like, yeah, let's get the rival in here twice. It's very odd to look at. And it's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out, because on social media, you're getting a mixed bag from fans of MEAC teams. Some of them like the rivalry game in there twice. Some of them didn't. It's probably split down the middle of those who liked it and those that did. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
I got a direct message, and I appreciate him listening. I'll just mention his first name, Terrence, Bethune-Cookman University. He was the one that let me know Bethune-Cookman University, not Bethune-Cookman College. I appreciate it, but he basically said, man, Bethune-Cookman has a tough schedule. And he wasn't feeling it at that moment that we had a text message conversation. But I've got the composite schedule out. Saturday, February 20th is the first playing date, conference date. And it runs from February 20th all the way to Saturday, April 10th, and then the MEAC Championship, April 17th. Let's just get to it. PJ, playing, and we'll use FAMU and Bethune playing once a year, but twice in the spring and then again in the fall. That is just amazing.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And one of the things that make rivalry games so special is that you wait all year, to see,
it's the build
that other helmet. It's that build up. And when you have it 3 times in a year, potentially, you hope that it doesn't get watered down. Like you hope that it doesn't get watered down. The thing about it is football is a lot different than any other sport. One of those matchups, I don't know if it's going to be the first one or the second one, it's going to be watered down. You're not going to get the same intensity that you usually get. We've seen it, we've seen rivals play each other in the regular season and then in the championship game. Sometimes that second matchup can get a little bit watered down. It's going to be very interesting to see how that's going to roll with potentially three meetings in the calendar year.
And with all that being said, and that's something that you do, you make predictions. Now you have a too early prediction. Then you have a preseason prediction. Just, BJ, looking at the schedule, the usual contenders will still be there. If you had to pick right now, who do you see are the favorites in the conference?
Right now, I would have to go with Florida A&M to come out of the Southern Division of the MEAC. Just all the talent FAMU has coming back. Zende Ray, Marquise Bell, just so much talent that they have. And they're replacing the quarterback with a transfer from Kansas State, who, by what everyone said in Tallahassee, looked great in the abbreviated spring that he did get a chance to have prior to COVID. And he's a big-time player, highly rated high school recruit, a big kid that's mobile and has the arm strength, a kid that people believe has, play on Sunday potential. When you replace Ryan Stanley with someone like that you could possibly upgrade an offense that had an All-American receiver, with 2,000-yard receivers. I like FAMU, but in the North, I like North Carolina A&T. A&T also returning a lot. They're returning a lot on the front seven. Franklin McCain, the Mac man, back at corner, All-American there. All-American freshman linebacker back. Jermaine Martin, All-American tailback, is back. They lose the big receiver, Elijah Bell, but then everybody else in the receiving corps is back. And then Jaylen Fowler, quarterback. We've been hearing about Jaylen Fowler. His size. We talk about a kid that's 6'3", 6'4", 240 pounds. He's mobile, got a big-time arm. It's now the Jaylen Fowler show. So I like the talent that A&T has, and they've added. And let's not forget the 4-star running back that transferred from Pitt. He's also back there with Jermaine Martin. It's going to be very, very interesting, but I like A&T to come out of the North.
So you're looking at potential FAMU and A&T championship game, correct?
Yep.
Now, Edwin, who is listening in Dallas, for those who, if Edwin didn't want everyone to know that he's from Dallas, I just relayed that one. He says, doesn't playing the rivalry twice devalue the game? Who is going to be MAC type for 2 encounters, and the second has nothing to do with a title? I said I was going to ask that question.
The second one may determine the division. You have an opportunity, especially if you talk about FAMU and Bethune Cookman. Look how tightly they've been in the MEAC race. We're talking about, hey, you might drop that first game, but then that second game may determine who actually gets to bid into the MEAC championship game. So I disagree. I think that second game is going to have major implications if the season plays out. When you look at, where those teams are as far as from a talent standpoint and what we're expecting, I expect those teams to be in the top 3 in the division when you throw in South Carolina State in there too. So I think those 2 games will be very critical.
And the championship game, that's a first. Now, I don't think you can ask will there be future championship games, because quite honestly, and you may know more about this than I do, the MEAC as a conference, you believe they'll still be there and be viable in the future?
I mean, I certainly hope so. I certainly hope so. I think the last time that we saw them talk about the future, we saw, we saw a grim sight. We saw the commissioner on the Zoom call in the empty room full of chairs, which was it was symbolic of where the conference had gone. But the teams who are in there now seem like they're committed. It's going to be very interesting to see if they can get a team or 2. You really want more than that, but if they can get 2 teams to come in and join, that would help them tremendously. The question is, where do you go? Do you try to go to the CIAA and maybe pull a Virginia Union or Virginia State, or do you try to go to some FCS conferences and then possibly try to get 2 non-HBCUs? It's going to be very interesting. And as far as CIAA teams, they got to be looking at it like this. I'm in the CIAA. No matter where I am in the CIAA, traveling is not that big of an issue. The schools in the CIAA are closely knitted, mainly in Virginia, North Carolina. Then you have, Bowie as an outlier there. Those teams are right there. And one of the big payouts that they have is the CIAA tournament. Now you're going to take away CIAA tournament from me, which is a nice payout, and increase my travel, and I have to increase everything for scholarships and sports. It's not that big of a win for a CIAA team to move up to the MEAC, as people would think it would be.
Well, we've often talked past 3-4 years about college athletics is ever changing, and now with a pandemic going on, and then post-pandemic, there may be movement all over the place. On Twitter, I saw Dr. Prince on his show and his Twitter feed, and then WACH Hoops Digest talking about WAC, the Western Athletic Conference Sports, of adding sending an invite to Stephen F. Austin, Lamar, Sam Houston State, although then I came back and saw where Sam Houston said they had not been given an invitation, and Abilene Christian getting an invite to the WAC. And so that kind of got me thinking about, these moving parts. The landscape is changing. So I said all that to say this. Where will this be 4 years from now, maybe 5 years, in your opinion, BJ, the college athletics as far as FCS and even on the FBS level?
I think from an FBS level, I think the pandemic has really shed a light on a lot of FBS teams who are playing FBS football that really honestly can't afford it.
Mm-hmm.
The pandemic has exposed that. So I think you'll have I think you have a few teams at the FBS level that are going to have a hard look at themselves. That may potentially move down. Pride has stopped them from doing it before, but I think the finances and just the overall just losses will cause them to do it now. So I think that as those teams drop down, that's going to open up some spots in some FCS leagues. I think you'll get the WAC as another FCS league. And I think that you're going to have the same thing at the FCS level. I think you're going to have some FCS teams who honestly should be Division II, that this pandemic has caused them to look at some things and go, you know what, we'll just go back down to Division II. I like the footing that the SWAC is in, what the commissioner has done prior to and during the pandemic, bringing in the two schools, putting the SWAC on some great footing. It's going to be interesting to see, as like you said, with the WAC coming in. Lamar is a name that you hear. Stephen F. Austin is a name that you hear. Sam Houston is a name that you hear. What happens if the WAC goes after those Texas schools that are in the Southland Conference?
Well, the Louisiana schools.
Right. So does the Southland Conference then start making googly eyes at a couple of schools in the SWAC? And would that cause a domino effect? So it's going to be very interesting.
Well, wait a minute. Well, how about if I don't want to put it that way, but what happens if they knock on the door to the Southwestern Athletic Conference and ask about joining? And we're talking about the Louisiana schools in the Southland Conference.
That'll be
that far fetched, or is it we're just all thinking out loud?
Yeah, I mean, I think with some of those schools, I think they would have to be in the bad position. I think the pride that a lot of those schools have wouldn't allow them to do it. Even though the SWAC may be in the better position, it'll be stable footing. I think the way that those schools have looked at SWAC institutions, I think it'll take a lot of pride swallowing to do that. But we've seen that happen in the past. So I think that'll be interesting.
Well, good thing you have great leadership in the Southwest Athletic Conference, and the Southwest Athletic Conference really doesn't have to beg anybody.
Nope.
If you look at it now, you try to get stronger and better as a conference. Teams that need some help within the conference, you help them, and they help themselves. But, it's just interesting because I saw this news on, social media, and it is going to be interesting to see how college athletics, the changing landscape, it's definitely going to change, and how those conferences adjust to that. So I'm just going to want your opinion on that. But back to the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference. So we could be looking at on paper, a FAMU, North Carolina, A&T matchup again. And if we kind of look at the past couple of seasons, you have to give FAMU the edge.
Yep, FAMU has got them.
That's on past experiences.
Yeah. FAMU has gotten them twice. Both of those games have been highly contested. They got them in 2018 in Greensboro, and then got them in Tallahassee last year. FAMU knows that they can beat North Carolina A&T. They've done it twice. And since that first FAMU win, really go back to 2017 when North Carolina A&T came down to FAMU, that rivalry has been budding. And we really, we talked about it on HBCU Game Day, that how that rivalry had turned back into what North Carolina A&T and FAMU was back in the late 90s. It really started getting back to that. And then now with A&T leaving the MEAC and FAMU leaving the MEAC for the SWAC, that's one of those games that a lot of people still want to see happen because of how intense that game has gotten really over the last 3 years when you look at it.
And BJ, it's interesting. As I'm listening to you give your explanation, it's funny. I often use with the NBA, it's about matchups. Now, FAMU's had success against North Carolina A&T. But North Carolina A&T is a much better program than Morgan State, correct?
Mm-hmm.
But Morgan State has had the edge on North Carolina A&T, and for whatever reason, or let down, or just not ready to play, mental, that's part of the game. But then, a Bethune-Cookman team, Bethune-Cookman University, who has not lost to FAMU in a while, and I know it's part of a big rivalry. To me, they're the most intriguing team in the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, now transitioning to the Southwestern Athletic Conference. What is it? What is it about Bethune-Cookman that's intriguing?
Well, the thing about Bethune-Cookman, if you watch them, Bethune-Cookman will play North Carolina A&T or South Carolina State or FAMU extremely hard. And oftentimes they'll come away with a win in those games. Bethune-Cookman should have beaten FAMU in 2017, had a big lead, and then let them come back. And we know what has happened with the FAMU game the last 9 tries. But Bethune-Cookman is inconsistent. Mm-hmm. Bethune-Cookman will play up or down to the level of the team that they're playing against. So you'll get a big win against FAMU, but then you'll get an upset loss at, let's say, a North Carolina Central or a Norfolk State. So that's been the Bethune-Cookman mantra. They'll win the games that you didn't have them in, but then they'll lose the games that you saw being no issue for them. And that has been that's been the running course in Daytona when it comes down to Bethune-Cookman. But every year they find themselves right at the end of the year, they find themselves right there in the mix for a MEAC title.
Yeah, it's so amazing the success that they've had, and I understand what you're saying, not being consistently inconsistent, but boy, they have FAMU's number. Wow.
And to be honest with you, the last 3 years, talk about 2017, 2018, 2019. The way that FAMU has lost that ball game, I want to say all of those games, like FAMU should have won. The 2018 one stands out because FAMU wins that game. They go to Atlanta to the Celebration Bowl,
right,
and have a pick six end it. It was just crazy. And then last year, FAMU had the opportunity to say, "Hey, we're the best team in the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, beyond a shadow of a doubt." They led most of that game all the way into the fourth quarter, and then boom, there goes Bethune-Cookman. Ryan Stanley and that offense has a chance to go down and win the ball game, and bam, another interception.
So in other words, am I hearing you saying FAMU is better, but Bethune-Cookman has been a little bit lucky, but winning what, 8 of 9, 9 of 10,
9 of 10,
something like that.
Yeah, 9 of 10.
Is it then a case of having some luck, but also in FAMU's head mentally?
It's a lot of that, and being in Atlanta, you run into alumnus of both schools, and this is the best way. FAMU will always talk about their football tradition and what they have of being one of the powers of black college football. Bethune-Cookman hasn't been bad. They haven't had FAMU success, but they haven't been bad. FAMU is simply annoyed by Bethune-Cookman. All right, they are annoyed by Bethune-Cookman. Bethune-Cookman hates FAMU. Like and that's the difference. FAMU is just simply annoyed by Bethune-Cookman. Bethune-Cookman hates FAMU. And that's a big difference when you turn into that game and one person's just simply annoyed, and the other one had this date circled from the beginning of the year. Matter of fact, this date was circled when we left the stadium last year, and that's the Bethune Cookman mentality when it comes down to FAMU.
That's their Super Bowl.
Yes,
that's their championship. That's their game of the decade. That's Bethune Cookman's start. FAMU, just, interesting perspective. I'll stop right there then, DJ, because, boy, I could get into some other, these rivalries are very interesting. You know, I can talk about the fan bases are alike. You know, then I can look at programs that are successful on paper, but they don't have the championship pedigree, the belts in their Hall of Fame of late. So it can get frustrating.
Yeah, I think especially with those two teams, Carlos. If you look at the last 10 years, what Bethune-Cookman did, especially we started talking about under Brian Jenkins, when they won, I think it was 2 out of 3 years when they beat an FBS team. They had like a 3-year run where they were ranked in the FCS top 15. As much as Bethune-Cookman did during that stretch, in the Willie Simmons stretch, from 2018 to now, FAMU hadn't done that. But FAMU has gotten more limelight than Bethune-Cookman has. And things like that annoy Bethune-Cookman fans.
I got you. That's a different perspective. Interesting perspective. Well, it'll be interesting to see the last competitive season in the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, and then both of those institutions bring it to the Southwestern Athletic Conference. As we stated before, BJ, it will be excitement. You will not be able to have an off week. You better not.
No.
Because you'll look up and you're looking from behind and you're trying to catch up and you never will. So it's going to be some pressure. Some are going to come in with house money. Some going to come in with some pressure on them. Some of them are going to come in and just figure out where they belong, but everyone's going to be competitive, and that's what you want. On that note, BJ, we will talk again soon. Interesting perspective on Bethune-Cookman and FAMU. And the spring schedule.
Oh, yeah, man. I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to it as well. Have a great weekend, BJ. We'll talk again soon. Have a good one, Carlos.
All right. Brandon BJ Jones of HBCU Game Day. Take a quick time out. Coach Pettaway joins me for the remainder of the show. He's coming up next. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
Your education, your health care, your community, your future. Your vote counts for many things. Take control. Get registered. Get educated. Get out and vote. Learn more at www.vote411.org. This is a public service announcement from Open Mic Broadcast Network.
Broadcasters come into our lives on radio and TV, bringing us information and entertainment. Broadcasters are there for us, but who is there for them when they fall on hard times? The Broadcasters Foundation of America provides financial assistance to broadcasters in acute need due to a critical illness, accident, or other serious misfortune. If you know of a broadcaster on the air or behind the scenes who may need our help, please share our message. Visit broadcastersfoundation.org.
One voice. It can get the point across, but it only carries so far. Add a voice. It's richer, louder, but that has limits too. Add a third voice. It's even more powerful. Add another, and another, and many, many more. And we are stronger than ever. That's the power of a community coalition. They help community groups, Faith groups, civic organizations, PTAs, employers, and many others in your community organize their resources and focus them where they're needed most, like fighting to keep kids away from drugs. Ask a group that you belong to if they should belong to a community coalition. It's easy to get involved. Visit helpyourcommunity.org and they'll tell you exactly how your group can help. That's helpyourcommunity.org, because you get more when we get together. Brought to you by the Office of National Drug Control Policy and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. I'll visit now with Coach Van Pettaway, the Carlos Brown Show's basketball analyst and sports analyst. And Coach Pettaway, good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning, Carlos. I hope everybody's doing well.
Oh, yeah, we're doing well, just discussing several topics, and now we have you on to get your perspective on some of those same topics and maybe some new topics to add to today's show. First and foremost, I'm glad you're doing well, and I'm surprised you're not. There was a fishing update. There we go.
Well, it's raining today. That's why I'm not on the water. That's why I'm ready, available. But I've already lowered the lake. I did that in the week, and after the show, I'll send you guys some pictures just to prove my point. But I love fishing; it's just a little too wet. Hey, look, I got plenty of it. Yeah.
I know it's a sport, fishing, but I like eating them.
Yeah, it's a competition.
Yeah, now it could be some competition. How much fish you could put down too, but that's another topic for another day. And but it is relaxing from what I've heard.
Oh yeah,
with fishing and so. But we're glad I'm able to talk with you today. I'm going to start in the NBA locally here, and it's a national story. The Pelicans hired a new coach, and Stan Van Gundy. Let me get your thoughts on it.
Well, I think it's a good hire because of the fact that this is a coach who knows the NBA. He's proven that he can win. He's won at different places. He won when he was at Orlando. And he's a guy that I think that will be able to help that young roster mature the way they need to mature. He can help he can help lead those guys to the next level. Because when you get a talent like Zion and all those other, to me now the only position that he's got to keep his eye on is that point guard position, because I'm not sure if Ball does not develop a perimeter shot, if he's going to be able to keep the defense honest. But Stan Van Gundy would be a great hire for them, and I think he'll be able to get the most out of that talent that they have down there in New Orleans.
Now, defensively, he's known as a defensive coach.
Yep.
Pelicans have good young talent.
Yep.
I've heard the discussion from national people to even local. And the question was, it seems that the type of coach that you need is an experienced old balls coach for a young team. So you agree with that assessment as well?
Yes, I do. Do.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's a great fit.
With that being said, Mark Jackson, Jason Kidd, some people thought that they may go in that direction. How important is it that the coach, or shall we say the general manager and the coach, do they have to be on the same page? Or is it imperative that they be on the
right?
same page?
Right. You got to be on the same page, because the talent that the GM is bringing in has to match with the coach's philosophy. So they got to work hand in hand. And if they don't, it's going to be a problem because you could be with the salary cap and you not just being able to go get who you want. It's a touch and go situation in that NBA when it comes to constructing a roster. But that coach's philosophy is the number one thing that they have to be conscious of. You got to bring people in that fits his philosophy, his style of play.
Coach, what do you think of coaches that have the dual position of being a coach, of course, and then say director of basketball operations, or they have more input on those type of decisions that the general manager has? Have you seen where that's successful in most cases?
Yeah, I think that works because now you're your own boss. You're bringing in your talent. You're bringing in the people that you want. So now when they start looking at who needs to be gone, if you are the head coach and the GM, they got to look at you first because you not only are you coaching them, you're the one that's bringing them in. So that's a great hat to wear, but you got to be conscious of what comes with that. Now, there's more scrutiny to that because if you're not successful, you can't point your finger at the front office. You are the front office.
And so, with that being said, you mentioned that point guard position needs an upgrade. Any other position that they need to upgrade?
Well, no. Anytime you can get shooters, I think shooters are a thing that any team is going to need. But I just think that Gundy has to get in there and teach those guys how to maximize their skills to win games. And they got to learn how to play together. They got talent. You got Ingram. You got Ball. You got Williams. You got plenty of talent on the team. And they're all young. You just got to get them to believe in themselves. You got to get them to play the way he wants them to play. And it's got to get done on the defensive end first for him. Then some of that defense will help turn into easy offense. It'll make it easier for them. Transition basketball is the easiest form of basketball for the players to play because it's more reaction. You get into trouble sometimes all of us get into trouble when we have to think too much on anything. But when you bring that over into the sports arena, you can really get in trouble when you're sitting there thinking when you should be reacting.
Understood. Valid point. Visiting with Coach Van Pettaway here on the Carlos Brown Show. One more NBA situation, and then we'll transition into the Southwestern Athletic Conference. I mentioned a minute ago, Jason Kidd, Mark Jackson. Although Mark Jackson's in the booth, I would assume that he would, for the right situation, come back in the coaching box. Where do you see those guys? Will they coach as a head coach in the NBA again?
I think they both should be given a shot, especially.
And isn't it about being with the right fit as well?
Correct. That's what I was about to say. It's got to be the right fit, especially for Mark. Now, when you look at it, he does not get enough credit for the success of Golden State. But if you really look back at the years, Steve Kerr won a championship with his team. He put that team together. He started those guys to believing in themselves and playing together. Then Steve Kerr comes in. They get rid of Mark, and then they win a championship. But Mark Jackson put that team together. Steve Kerr reaped all the benefits. Okay? He's proven that he can coach. He's a good communicator. He's an excellent old guy. He's a quiet, reserved coach now. He's not that he's not going to be yelling and screaming on the sideline. He's not going to do that. That's not him. That's not his MO. But he's an excellent coach. He knows the game. And if you look at it, he's a point guard. And you know what? Sometimes leaders of the teams, they they turn out to be pretty good coaches. They turn out to be pretty good analysis. When you look at the NFL, do you know, to me, the best commentators are the guys who were former quarterbacks, because as quarterbacks, they know more about the team than, let's say, a defensive guy. So that, to me, it translates on the coaching side also, because you know about more aspects of the game. Some of them make good coaches, and I think Mark Jackson and them will do an outstanding job if given the opportunity.
Yeah, because I think Houston haven't decided on the coach yet?
Yeah,
and maybe I'm missing somebody else.
Right. So I think it's two teams left, but out of that group that's left, if Mark didn't go back to Indiana, then I don't know if he wants to coach Houston. I wouldn't want to coach Houston. Not with them trying to play small ball. Yeah, that's not going to work. That's not going to work.
And I've kind of heard some movement with Westbrook again, and Harden.
Right. Well, I think the other thing that's going to happen too. You know, they fired the GM, so now that philosophy may change. You know, they may go back to a traditional team, but now the hard part is where do you find those big guys that can play, that are available and that fit your salary cap? Because now you paying all this money to the two guards. So will you have enough money to bring in frontline players that you need and that you can afford?
Well, also, and I promise to stop it at this, there are also some conversation with Embiid and interest with Houston, but again, I don't know how that will work. Even if you can get the money right, that doesn't.
I don't see that.
See, because they're not really the bigs now are more of the European type bigs.
Right, right. They stretch the floor. Yeah. Right. He stretches the floor in his mind because he stands out there and throws up them threes. But he would be the most dominant player in the NBA if he concentrated on staying on the block.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Thunder and the Rockets. Yeah, Coach, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, the SWAC released their conference basketball schedule and what have you, and we were kind of having a light discussion on teams.
Right.
And that, they're going to, when they have their virtual media day, then they'll come out with the predictions and all conferencing. And we got 9 minutes left, Coach.
Hey, okay, you asked me a couple of weeks ago about the teams in the SWAC and who I felt was the top teams in the SWAC. And I'm going to do that. I'll do that for you real quick. On the women's side.
You cooking with grease now.
Okay. On the women's, I do my homework. You did this a couple of weeks ago. You asked me to be prepared for it. On the women's side, I'm going with Texas Southern, Jackson State, Southern, and A&M. Those are my top four.
All right. Wait a minute. Say that again. Wait a minute.
I'm sorry.
You got Texas Southern over Jackson?
A lot of people are going with Jackson State, but I think Texas Southern, because of the Coach Cooper and the people that she's bringing in and that she's got coming back, I just think that she'll edge them out this year. So that's the only reason. Okay. On the men's side, I know this is not going to go well. On the men's side, I got Southern University, Prairie View, Texas Southern,
gonna have a heart
and
attack back there. Y'all check on it.
Let me tell you my reason
for picking. Having input in this.
Okay, now hold on. This is Jeff Van Pettaway. This is me. I picked Southern on the men's side because of the number of people that they got returning. Okay, Prairie View is the defending champ, but they lost a lot off of that team, and I know he's got recruits in. But here's the problem. If we're only going to play a SWAC schedule, that means that there's no preseason games, so you can't work the kinks out. So to me, the advantage is going to go to the teams that have the most returning productive players. So that's how I edged out Prairie View by maybe 1 point and picked Southern. So that's just me. And they got to play the games. They still got to play the games on the court. So this could all come back on me. But that's just the way I feel going in, and it's only because I did not know whether or not they would be allowed to play non-conference games. If it's non-conference games, you get to work the kinks out. But if you're talking about starting this season with just your conference schedule, they got to start the 2nd of January with no exhibition games, no preseason games, no non-conference games. To me, the advantage goes to the team that are returning the most productive players. And that's how I saw it. And then when you start talking about the schedule, that first week of the schedule, you got 2 new coaches in the league. Gramblin's going to be in trouble when they play Alabama State. And I think Texas Southern has to be careful when they go into Alcorn. Because first game for new coaches, each coach is first time as a head coach, so we don't know their philosophy, we don't know their style of play, and as playing a team like that, you've got to be you got to be good at making on-court adjustments. Your team has to be ready for that because you don't know. There's no tape to look back on what these guys are doing. All the other teams in the conference, you got tapes on.
Yeah, well, Coach, one thing, teams are playing non-conference. Now, some may have a limited non-conference games, but
I know that the NC2A gave them the right to play for, but I have yet to see. Like yesterday, I scrolled the SWAC schedule. I did not see not one conference game, non-conference. So maybe they haven't had a chance to put them out yet.
Yeah,
but the websites are not up to date, I don't guess.
Yeah, that, and then too, I had Dr. Cable on from the commissioner's office, and he basically said they are having non.
Oh, they will play.
Games.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
now, and I also know, like for instance, because of course COVID-19, an example is brought up like say Prairie View, Texas Southern. They in Houston. You wouldn't have to really travel. You could have kind of like a situation where they could, say, play a team at the University of Houston, right there in the city.
Right.
From a geographical standpoint, Southern could have, say, like a doubleheader at University of Louisiana Lafayette, and you have Southern and ULL, Southeastern and Grambling playing. Just kind of examples like that.
Yeah, play area games, right, because of the virus. Now, that will help you. You got to do that to help you going into the conference schedule. Yeah, if they schedule those, then, yes, those teams will be ready and all the kinks will be worked out.
Now, I said earlier, and again, your predictions are that. No one can take that away from you, and time will tell where you stand on those predictions. Of course, I did smile when you said Southern, when what they have based on returning. Now, on the women's side, though, I was shocked.
Hold on. Coach, now that you can play those games, you're going to stick with those predictions?
No, I'm not. I remember I said that's because I didn't think – I thought they were just going to only play conference games. Prairie View, if they will have the opportunity to work the kinks out, now they will win that spot back, that number one spot back.
Wait a minute, Coach. Wait. Was it that quick that you changed your mind?
No. Remember I told you I had them by one. Remember I told you I said Southern by 1 point.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you, Coach.
I still love you, Coach Pettaway.
Yeah, but look, if you're in the top 4, if you picked in the top 4, you're doing great because anything can happen from 4 to 1 to change that pecking order. So I think these teams are great. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be fresh because teams are not going to be worn out because you can't play a lot of non-conference games. And I think it's going to be great for the game of basketball, especially in the SWAC.
Well, Coach, I think I was more shocked when you said Texas Southern will dethrone Jackson State on the women's side.
Yep, it's just something about Coach Cooper. I've always admired the way she does things. I wanted to bring Sandy Pugh in there. She's always been one of my favorites, but she hasn't had the talent that she had at Southern. And I just think that Texas Southern was right there with Jackson last year. And I think with Coach Cooper not winning that title, I think she'll be motivated, and that's why I gave her the edge.
And quickly, on the men's side, who is a team that you better be aware of? I know who you talked about as fourth champion. Grammar?
Grammar, yeah. And because they got the most returning people coming back, yep.
And on the women's side?
On the women's side, you better look out for A&M. They're in the top 4, but they can play. That Lewis girl is the real deal.
Exciting times ahead. Coach, I appreciate it. And,
all right, guys.
We shall talk again real soon.
Oh, I will. Hey, stay safe and God bless.
God bless. I want to thank Dr. Jason Cable, Brandon DJ Jones, and Coach Van Pettaway, and everyone who listened in and participated on today's show. Let the conversation continue. Also, want to thank Dr. Michael Prince producing today's show. Dr. Prince, quickly, Sunday night guest. I'm sure it's going to be an outstanding guest.
Yes, sir. We have the ghost appearance. We'll have Eric Dooley on, sir.
Tell him I said hi. I'll be listening in.
I surely will, sir. I surely will. You hate Coach. You hate Coach James, don't you? Didn't you?
Yeah.
I love you, brother. I love you.
Yes, sir. Same here. And Coach Pettaway, still much love. Oh, unbelievable. Changed it that quick. Unbelievable. On that note, tune in next Saturday at 10 a.m. for another edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Until that time, as always, peace and God bless.